When the sun's too hot and my old man's not, well, I stumble outside the door.
There's a certain line a few minutes into Miss Stevens that Billy, the social outcast type of teen, says, which was the singular moment I sat up in my seat and began to recognize this movie was something special. We were just introduced to Rachel Stevens, our main character and a high school English teacher, and watched her deal with an expectedly belligerent class. After class ended, we saw her call Billy over to talk. We've already started to learn about Billy from his probing questions, angsty attitude, and subtly stubborn body language. But then, he told Rachel he was having trouble caring about things at the moment. A very teenager thing to say, of course, and she asked him if he was talking to anyone. He responds with,
"Just because people are the people you're supposed to talk to doesn't mean you can talk to them."
Whoa. It's these types of little character moments that built a remarkably tactful and introspective movie about the importance of genuine emotional connection and love. What impressed me the most was that Miss Stevens' usage of music was a constant contradiction. Abrupt and often jarring, songs cut in and out of the background, woven into the fabric of scenes, which simultaneously immersed us in the world and pulled us right back out, like a reminder that we were the audience and not first-hand witnesses. This switching was at times both diegetic and narratively consequential. It swelled as Rachel danced around, being her genuine self as if no one was watching. Although Billy was, and was greatly enjoying it. Then, it dipped as Rachel was approached by Walter, another teacher at the acting convention they're both chaperoning at, and remained recessed as they got to know each other. After the conversation picked up and they went to leave, the music surged, marking a connection formed between them while Billy's jealousy showed itself.
I don't really see anybody else that I want to talk to.
This pattern was laced throughout most scenes with meaningful emotional bonds being developed. Especially when it came to Rachel and Billy's burgeoning friendship, music played an integral role in supporting the critical moments and emotions we're supposed to feel as the characters experience them. First, it was the bright and cheery chorus of Sister Goldenhair during the car ride to the hotel.
The best part. Will you meet me in the middle? Will you meet me in the air? Will you love me just a little, just enough to show you care?
Then there was their initial conversation alone together that culminated in music swelling during the diner, drowning out what they're saying. Then it was jumping on the bed as Billy tried to cheer Rachel up that slowly transitioned to the balcony where she finally opened up about missing and grieving for her mom.
Yeah. That's a good joke. Excuse me.
Conversely, the absence of sound created an overpowering sense of unease and tension for whatever was going to come next, while music playing pushed my thoughts towards a more positive moment occurring. Notably, because of how well music was used as the foundation of an emotional tie-in during a scene where it played, Billy's monologue distinctly lacks any musical backing.
You're gonna hear the truth. What you are and what I am.
The constant switching between scenes with and without music was critical, emphasizing and reinforcing the emotional stakes. Meanwhile, the ebb and flow of the soundtrack and original score served to bolster every interaction with meaning and purpose. Sister Goldenhair cut out before Rachel and Billy's last real conversation in her car as she dropped them off back at school, which perfectly paralleled their first moments together in the car at the beginning of the movie.
Will I keep on thinking about you, sister?
Rachel talked with Margot after her humiliating performance in total silence.
Or even tomorrow, but there will be a day when this is okay. The worst part is that I knew I was gonna be terrible.
Rachel and Billy argued about Billy's mental stability with backing music completely gone.
Up until a week ago, I was on some pretty serious medication, all right? I'm saying I'm sad too, Rachel.
As if to prove a point, one of the most special moments of the movie, where Rachel explained how she came to the difficult personal decision to go on the trip, and the unfinished thought of the significance of seeing a play without her mom in it, lacked any background sound.
On Thursday night, I went to see a play at the theater where my mom used to.
The scene's silence was deafening. Rachel talked, and Billy learned Rachel was willing to face her fears, finally ready to come to grips with the final stages of grieving for her mom because she knew how important this competition could be for her students. More than that, it would be a step in the right direction for her finally bringing meaning back into her life. While cliché, the reject or social outcast role was particularly poignant. Billy was, as far as I could tell, a normal modern teenager. He expressed his problems as though he was the world's most deeply troubled teen. Ironically, this melodramatic presentation and overtly earnest display of emotions was exactly like every other teen. The movie itself provided examples of this for reference. Just compare Billy with Sam and Margot. Sam had a freak out because the other teen he was talking to was a bit of a dick.
Yeah, John is an asshole. Sorry.
Margot experienced a public humiliation and went to cry in a toilet stall, pretending her world had come to an end.
I just want you to know that it's totally okay to be upset.
That was humiliating.
It was, wasn't it?
But underneath those woe is me mannerisms, Billy was observant and caring. The way he exhibited real, heartfelt emotion during his rendition of a monologue from Death of a Salesman was a perfect display of how capable he was of conveying the complexity of his feelings. You could see the anger in his eyes from being coddled by his parents.
Do you hear this?
You could feel the desperation to be his own independent person, not someone reliant on medicine clouding his mind and judgment.
I ran down 11 flights with a pen in my hand today.
You could even hear the immature desire to be somebody already, without anyone's help or expectations.
What am I doing in an office, making a contemptuous, begging fool of myself when all that I want is out there?
Choosing to do that monologue in particular was a perfect corollary to how he felt about the way he, like so many others around him, was being raised, shoved in any direction his parents felt was correct, while being reassured he's the best. Billy declared he needed a figure in his life to challenge him constructively, or someone to talk to that wasn't trying to fix him so that he could honestly express himself. Regardless of how Rachel was trying to set boundaries for herself, it was Billy's persistence in talking to Rachel that started to forge the bond between the two of them. Rachel sat at the intersection of trying to come to grips with a life and a world without her mom and the now unfulfilling reality of her life as a teacher. Though not inherently linked, the movie showed the intertwining nature of personal and professional meaning. The latter definitely skewed her towards being involved, as Walter would put it, in her students' lives, and likely why she let her and Billy's relationship progress as it did. The pivotal scene where she got the reality slap that had been winding up from the start of the movie and was forced to figure out what's actually going on between them was devoid of music.
I have to call someone, and I have to tell them what is going on.
What's going on?
As soon as Billy asked her what's going on, we saw Rachel doing the rapid-fire calculations in her head necessary to answer that question. Action stalled and her face still with shock. What was going on? Billy stormed off and Rachel literally and metaphorically closed the door on the situation. For the rest of the movie, Rachel remained emotionally close and connected to Billy, but with a distance between them tangible in their remaining scenes. Rachel remained in a strictly mentor role to him, not once allowing herself to be vulnerable in Billy's company. Rachel's internal struggles were present and intricately crafted from the first scene. The conversation where she described her mom to Billy, a rather touching scene, solidified their more than the normal teacher-student relationship, clarified and recontextualized a great deal of Rachel's personality as we've seen it. Why she listened to the oldies, her car, her sentimental notions towards theater, and even her emotional distance from anyone. We never saw her with any friends, and she even admitted to not being used to small talk or normal conversation.
I'm so used to talking at people that I forget how to, the grown-ups.
Her personality was muted, only eked out in bits and pieces by Billy.
Margot's convinced you're a lesbian.
Excuse me?
We didn't see a life outside of being a teacher. As far as we're led to believe, her mom was her entire life, a woman she loved and adored, and the void she left in Rachel's life was clearly as close to insurmountable as it could have been. Watching the final scene of the movie after we witnessed her deeply conflicted thoughts about Billy and having learned about her relationship with her mom, along with her currently fragile emotional state, made the cut between Rachel before the trip and Rachel after the trip all the more jarring. Who was Rachel at the start of the movie? As she explained, that Rachel we saw was ripped open with overwhelming feelings of nostalgia, coupled with the pride and pure joy she used to feel from watching plays starring her mom, and the simultaneous gut-wrenching emptiness of her not being there on the stage. Life truly moved on for her, for the world, without her mom. The Rachel we left with was one whose bond with her students, specifically and most significantly Billy, had helped her properly grieve. Undeniably, he taught her lessons about the dangers in personal attachment to her students' lives. And despite being a rather backwards way of achieving this, Rachel had a renewed passion for theater, which we even see in her eyes during Billy's performance. But, surpassing all of that, the necessity of sharing her emotions with somebody who is willing to listen, instead of bottling everything up. Miss Stevens didn't have any flashy moments. It didn't have any because it didn't need any. Instead, it consisted of a combination of largely static shots, slow push-ins and pull-outs, and medium close-ups that kept the audience constantly at an arm's length. We were never too close to anybody or their problems, but consistently just close enough that we established an intentional level of familiarity and intimacy with everyone. We were meant to build up that understanding and empathy over the course of the movie, so every emotion was felt as viscerally as possible. It became what I was most attached to when I pondered Miss Stevens and its characters. We watched their struggles rather uncomfortably, a little too sad for each of them, as they strove for a sense of stability and normalcy again. What we saw was a brief window in time on the path to healing for Rachel and the beginning of a long road to maturity for Billy. There's something special to the almost absence of a conclusion everybody had, especially those two. It followed the same pattern Miss Stevens started with, where we're dropped into the middle of people's lives. Mere moments, really, so we didn't get a neat little bow on anyone's story in the end. The last thing we're left to think about was one final, perfectly bittersweet moment for Rachel and Billy. Just as one-sided for her as the rest of her story was for us.
Okay. We ready?